relationship with deity, such as medicine Buddha. I've given that practice to many here with the full confidence. I want to say I gave it with full confidence, entrusting the practice to many of you here. And from your side, I am praying that you are maintaining that trust and relationship. If you haven't, then please begin. Okay? This evening, current students, right? Current students are going to be discussing Manjushri. These will be people who have received initiation, who are already formally students of White College. So I'm going to be talking about Manjushri this evening, the Buddha of Wisdom, which is the general theme of this visit, speaking about truth and reality and wisdom, etc. And these relationship with deity is a feature of Tibetan Buddhism. And we do this through daily meditation practice, not just in general daily meditation practice, such as calming or relaxation type meditation, but we do it in very specific ways by maintaining a recitation, as what an empowered recitation of the sadhana to help us develop a relationship with deity. Now, so far, it sounds like a lot like Christianity, where you want to develop a relationship with God, right? I mean, if we call God a deity, I don't think that there's any question that God is a deity, right? So what's the difference with Tibetan Buddhism? Tibetan Buddhism, what does that have to offer that you don't already get available in your local church? To become the same as deity. Now, I don't know that there's any Christianity or any other religion, Hinduism, of course, but for the mainstream American, that would even let you think that you could become the same as God. They would have started the fire and gotten steak up. But luckily, you're bored nowadays. And although many people might flirt with the idea of this feeling as generous as God, etc., having these qualities, that I don't believe that there's any training available to help you become like God, true. And so this relationship that one develops does not come just because you want it. I know this flies in the face of American like that. Self-help, DIY like that. Building Norwood, I learned a lot about what DIY. I didn't think I was going to have DIY plastering walls, but I did anyway. We're going to DIY, putting in our own
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
DIY. Huh?
DIY.
DIY. We learned DIY, putting in every speck of insulation ourselves. Not me personally, but I did it. I had photos to prove it, and those were not photo ops. That was real work. Yes, dear.
Made me think of a cute story. You know, Habitat for Humanity?
Oh my, yes.
Okay.
Very, very
so, in this one state, they had a tornado, whatever.
Yes.
And all the houses got flattened except one left standing. That was the one that was a Habitat for Humanity. And they said it was all those extra nails. And they were professionals, so they and all that love.
So, although we may have a desire to gain these exalted states, that it actually is not a DIY project. And even though you can change the oil on your car, and you can bake your own bread, and you can do a lot, you you will not gain, you will not hit the incredibly tiny target unless you have someone who already knows the way. And so a feature of Tibetan Buddhism, over 1,000 years from our Indian past through Tibetan process, has appreciated and cultivated the kind of guidance as well as preparing those who will become guides to have that intimate relationship with deity, plus the motivation to help others get there. That in Catholicism is famous for having saints, great saints, who had this intimate relationship with God. I'm just talking about relationship now. Did they teach others or empower others to see what they saw?
No.
Did they teach others?
They tried.
Was there? Huh?
Some tried and they were failed.
Yeah. And so this was considered to help someone awaken, was considered to be a sin. Not so in Tibet. It was quite encouraged and admired. And so this may be a little problem with American method of spirituality, that this, and talking about independence, this sense of strong individuality, many people who have spiritual feelings refuse to be helped. That they don't want help. They don't want anybody to tell them what to do. They want to get it from CD chanting discs. True. If they can't get it by chanting holy names from a CD, then they aren't going to get it at all. They're not just going to do it. They're going to do it their way or no way at all. And so the sense of empowerment, self-empowerment, and becoming enlightened oneself is not as valuable as actually becoming enlightened. It would be like being swept along, being swept along in a fast-moving river, and someone reaches a hand down to help, and you say, "No, thank you." Exactly. And this is a great. Now Tibetan Buddhism has been here for 30 or 40 years, and it has that spirituality has become even more arrogant. And unfortunately, there are those who have not been good helpers. And that the concerns that people have of perhaps allowing someone to help them, who may not have their best interests at heart. You think, well, I can't trust anybody. Why would I allow someone to help me that I can't trust? Do I believe that they actually know what they're talking about? Can they really help me? Etc. And so, my point here is that the relationship with deity that helper already has, because they were allowed to be helped at some time in their past, who was allowed to be helped at some time in their past, is exemplified best by the movie Pay It Forward. So we could call the spirituality that you seek is Pay It Forward Buddhism. Huh? And so this important point of allowing yourself to be helped is a real stumbling block for someone who has an excessive sense of individuality, so much so that they won't let anyone help them. This is actually a very strong feature of American culture, that this individuality has created a monster of someone who needs help and refuses to be helped, and so they perish. sadly, many people in spirituality have arrived at this point where they're sort of just hanging out there in this sort of whatever balance that they could attain, but not going deeper, but not getting a chance to go deeper. And so this is a feature of Tibetan Buddhism, that offering help to go deeper. And how is this done? This is done through the training and the teachings of Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, who was the original DIY. And it's so hard to DIY that he said, maybe you try this a little bit. Okay, this is 2,600 years ago. And so the techniques which he used in his own awakening, he shares with us. And in Tibet, this was the core. This was the relationship that we wanted. That we wanted someone, and I'm going to use an American expression, to be our case manager in this project. Huh? You know how if someone's having real trouble that you need an advocate? We're looking for someone to be our advocate in higher being. And this advocacy, this advocate needs to have connections with someone that can help you. So not like this, I'm reading about Martin Luther in the early or Middle Ages Catholic Church where he needed to establish their own relationship with God. Absolutely, absolutely correct. That you cannot pay someone to make you enlightened. Even the Buddha said, I cannot tap you on the head and make you an enlightened being. It doesn't work that way. That you need to make effort, but you're already making effort, but you don't know if your efforts are leading to the right place. So you make effort for a while, and then you stop and you look and you think, and then you're not sure, so you stop making effort, which of course wasn't the thing you were supposed to do, because it's the steady making effort that actually got it, but only if you know what you're doing. And so this relationship with deity means that the one who is trying to help you out of the rushing river has to have that relationship with Medicine Buddha, for example, or Manjushri, Buddha of Wisdom. They have to be accomplished in order to be able to help you. Otherwise, and this is also good, they're sharing their experiences, or they're sharing their stories of spirituality and successes and failures, etc. This is not bad, but this isn't the real thing. And I'll tell you, it's not easy to get the real thing. It's not easy to get someone who will let you, it's not easy to find someone who will take an interest in you enough to help you become enlightened. Even in Tibet, it wasn't that easy. That there was a tremendous amount of testing of the student before they were accepted. In America, there is a tremendous amount of testing of the teacher, and then people aren't sure whether they knew what they were doing when they were testing, so they just go someplace else. So this is not getting us anywhere. Right? And in that way, this, through initiation and transmission, that the interior of the student is introduced to, for example, Medicine Buddha. Not you on the outside, because you don't have the senses that your inner being does already. And so the inner being is introduced to Medicine Buddha, and the outer being is expected to facilitate the transformation so that the inner being can become enlightened. No human being ever became enlightened. It can only happen on the interior. Doesn't that make sense? And so when that transformation occurs, a cathartic domino effect occurs with the person on the outside, and they are considered enlightened, but of course it's not possible. And in that way, The way it happens is through the facilitation, through a daily meditation practice, to become the same as deity. For example, accomplished medicine Buddha practitioner, someone who's been doing it for decades and decades, seriously, perhaps in a cave, or lifetime after lifetime, reawakens to the understanding that they are, that they are not the person themselves, but they are considered the same as medicine Buddha. Because their nature has become the same as medicine Buddha nature. Is this offered in your Christian tradition? No. Becoming the same as means that on the inside, no different from. On the outside, these individual practitioners, high practitioners of, for example, medicine Buddha, may have very different expressions of medicine Buddha nature. But they are considered to be the same as medicine Buddha. So this is a feature. This is a feature of Tibetan Buddhism, particularly the Tantric. And so this is an important feature that is offered to Americans. Not easy to understand because you already have the seeds of what they call heresy. The seeds of heresy built in. And for many people who come to Tibetan Buddhism and have strong beliefs and strong faith in their Christian upbringing, along with this idea that you cannot become deity, you cannot become like deity, that they feel that if they take their Buddhist practice seriously, then they're Christian, that Christ will no longer like them or love them, because they can't be like Christ, they can't be like God. And so they figure that if they compartmentalize this, and say, well, this is my Christian side, this is my Buddhist side, no, that doesn't work. That in fact, it never was a sin to become the same as God. And if you've got a well-balanced mind and nature, then these things are definitely possible, but not unless you have transmission and from a valid source that can introduce you to that nature so that you can remember it again. You can't remember who you are. Why? It's because you were born. Because you were born, you have lost connection with your past. Maybe you were one of the desert fathers out there in the early years of Christianity. But you can't remember it, and you can't get there again because the act of birth has clouded and overwhelmed those more delicate experiences. And so you need to make effort, as they did. Maybe they were reincarnations of Buddhism. You know, Christianity is New Age compared to Buddhism. And this birth is like a in one way, it's kind of a strangulation of our deeper nature. In another way, you could see it as nurturing and keeping us safe while we're here in the human world. You can look at it positive or negative. For those who've read The Mystery of Emptiness and Love that I wrote, that I think I covered this fairly extensively. At least I know what I was talking about, even if I didn't say a lot about it. And in that way, this requires, you cannot say, for example, there are many people who profess to be Buddhists who say, hey, everybody's a Buddha. There's no problem, everybody's a Buddha. Everyone has this, is a Buddha. My dog is a Buddha. We even name him Buddha, right? And so they don't try. They live in the affirmation that they are already a Buddha. So how has that helped them so far? They don't even know how to make a good loaf of bread, and they're calling themselves a Buddha. that in fact their suffering defines them as a sentient being, a non-Buddha. That one cannot become a Buddha just by saying it, any more than I have do I have a 10-year-old car? I have a 12, 13-year-old car. And I could say as much as I want, I have a Ferrari outside my window, I have a Ferrari outside my window, I have a Ferrari outside. And then I look, do I have a Ferrari? No. This is the same thing as people who say that they're a Buddha. They're deluding themselves, and they not have the opportunity to get the desired result because they're too lazy to make the effort. So this is actually very sad. And the teachings of Zen Buddhism are not saying that you're a Buddha. They're saying that you have an innate Buddha nature hidden in there somewhere, like if you went to the dump and you dug down 50 feet, okay? And maybe you hit natural soil down there somewhere capable of growing a flower. But all of this keeps you from being a skillful. It's all toxic, piled, jumbled, useless. So this is an important point. The second is lineage or lines of transmission of teachings or historical teachers. Among the, I'm going to call employees of the path to perfection. These are the traditional teaching lineages. There are many different kinds of enlightened beings doing various kinds of skillful service for the benefit of living beings. There are certain lineages who are traditional teachers. And these lineages are empowered with lines of awakening transmissions in order to benefit living beings, to help them awaken. There's no paper involved. And so very often, these lineages are not human lineages. These are Buddha-level lineages who own the historical teachers, who owned the historical teachers. That they were the actual wisdom beings. And the historical teachers were their mouth in the human realm. These historical teachers, for example, I'm the 9th Domo Geshe. I'm actually the 8th Domo Geshe, 2 of the 7th, and so on. But which doesn't confuse me at all. And I'm very excited to meet the 10th, but not yet. And so these lines of transmission are continuous. They are unbroken lineages. And we have an unbroken transmission of various kinds of important awakening teachings which are still alive, and still emanating teachers, still emanating teachers. Not just teachers, but guides. You know, they emanate mentors on the outside and mentors on the inside. And these lineages are extremely important, that they have continuity and protection, and that they not end here in America in a morass of sentimental love and light. Meaning that these lineages are sturdy, that they are powerful, that we are not permitted to make them into teddy bears of like this, all happiness and glow. No, these are like that. This is my lineage. And these lineages are what the Chinese tried to destroy in Tibet. In my just previous, I was in the worst of the Tibetan prisons, in Drapchi prison. And I saw many great lineage beings tortured in order for them to lose their mind and make them incapable of continuing these the lineage teachings. They knew that if they destroyed the lineages, then everyone was theirs. And so, at great effort, we preserved our lineages through that horrible time, and emerged as worldwide citizens. So, these lineages are in the process of being invited into a receptive cultures, such as the American spiritual culture, such as people who are very, very interested in healing, who want to pursue the spiritual core of medicine Buddha, Manjushri practices, and it can only be done by receiving the help from someone who already knows, right? And so it has nothing to do with any weirdness, that this is actually part of the natural and organic process toward perfection. All right. And the third point, the encouragement of spiritual scholarship in conjunction with meditation. That particularly the Gelug tradition were considered to be the scholars. That being able to discuss and refine our view of the meaning of Lord Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, as well as the great beings, the great Buddhist masters of the past. That these were written and preserved at great cost, I myself, after getting out of Chinese prison, I gathered books. My health very broken, but I gathered books, holy books, and saw to it that they got out safely, because books were being burned, statues, all of our tankas and religious way of life was being chopped up and destroyed. And so it was extremely important that the elements of scholarship, which were the books, that those be preserved and cared for. And in exile, we began printing books again. Very important work of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, establishing the Tibetan library. And then slowly books that people had brought out were in there, plus printing of new books, and new things were written. That the scholarship meant that there were many Rinpoches, reincarnated bodies, who were gathered into camps, rough camps. And they were told, your job is to learn. And so they, even in this sweltering heat of northern India, that they were studying and obtaining higher degrees in religious scholarship. And so extremely important, because we had things to do, we had to share. I myself never went to camp like that. But we had things to do, and we had people to teach, and this scholarship had to be maintained. I actually got my degree in Tibet. At that time, I was the youngest PhD in religious studies. Anyway, too bad. Don't clap because I'm excessively proud of it. which is sometimes what scholarship will do. But I was very serious, and I was quite a bright student, so here. And so this spiritual scholarship, very often people will read spiritual books, and I'm talking about the heavy-duty ones, not not the light, fluffy spiritual books. Scriptures, until they get to a certain place, and then they set them aside, and then they don't want to pursue the studies. Or conversely, there are many people in Tibet as well as in the West who only want to read scriptures and the heavy commentaries, and they never meditate at all. They never meditate at all. And so, on one, they're blind from scholarship, and the other is blind to their potential for understanding the Dharma in a deeper way, so they can share it. But they're only partially educated. So, what Tibetan Buddhism has to offer is encouragement to read the classics, to read Nagarjuna, to become competent. You know, when I first came, my students, and I first started to teach, my students had not read any kind of Buddhist literature. They just wanted to experience Buddhism, meditation, etc. And for a number of years, I continuously encouraged, read something, do something. Read The Liberation in the Palm of the Hand is the one that I really ask people to read. Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand by Pamonka Rinpoche, another member of my lineage. And those who have, because when people would ask them questions about Buddhism, they go, I don't know. I only meditate like that. And those who have can have a discussion, and they can remember what they read with Nagarjuna, long time ago, or even what the Buddha said, or even what Rinpoche said. I don't know. That they become less leaky, and they're able to hold their mind together in a new way, so that they're more alert and they become confident. And this is part of the confidence and faith that they have in the path, because they actually know something about the path. All right. So this encouragement of spiritual scholarship in conjunction with meditation, we don't fall too far one way or the other way. We don't exclude those two areas like that. And so, I want to, oh gosh, where did my time go? That please you go on the internet, which is our scriptural resource. And this is called, I didn't write it down, I know it. It's called Three Principles of the Path. Three Principles of the Path by Jetsun Kappa. T-S-O-N-G-K-A-P-A. Tsongkhapa. So, and I'd like you to, because we're only going to start here, but I'd like you to at least read it and feel that it's scholarship, okay? And great being Tsongkhapa, Jetsun-Kappa, who was considered to be no different than Manjushri himself. No different than Manjushri himself. And in addition, he was no different than Chenrezig himself, the Buddha of compassion. He was considered to be no different than Vajrapani himself, the Buddha of spiritual power. So if you thought becoming one with deity was interesting, imagine someone like Jetsun-Kappa, who was the conjunction of three very important deities: Buddha of wisdom, Buddha of compassion, Buddha of power. No wonder he was so terrific, huh? Outstanding scholar, outstanding in teaching, outstanding in personal discipline and meditation and retreat, outstanding in his compassion and care for others. I'll recite it a bit here. I bow down to my perfect gurus. The essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors. Before I do this, I'm going to recite the entire thing, but please be aware that this is a style of transmission that's called lun. R-L-U-N-G or L-U-N-G, which is a style of transmission which is by hearing and recitation of the scripture. So very often before a teaching, for example, if we were going to do this for 3 months, and why not, that we would begin by the loom transmission of the text that we are going to do commentary and study the Buddhist teachings through that particular text. And so when you're receiving loom, that you do it in a special way, that you're not distracted, you're not going to write notes, and just simply listen and absorb, not so much with your intellectual mind. Don't forget your intellectual mind and just go into a meditative state, but a little bit more in the heart, and try to listen to this on 2 levels, inner and outer, okay? I bow down to my perfect gurus, the essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. This I shall try to explain as much as I can. Those who are not attached to the pleasure of circling samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. Without the complete intention, definitely, to be free from circling, there is no way to pacify attachment, seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by craving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, seek renunciation. Freedom and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. By thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearance of future lives is reversed. When, by having trained in that way, there is no arising, not even for a second, of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention, seeking liberation, arises. Then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Even if renunciation has been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. Swept away by the current of the 4 powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the 3 sufferings, thinking that all mothers are in such a condition, generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. In short, it is like the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire, and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity. Your reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible for you to bear their suffering for even 1 second, and the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort. Then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. Without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you have generated renunciation and the mind of enlightenment, You cannot cut the root cause of circling. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. One who sees the cause and effect of all phenomena, of both cyclic existence and the state beyond sorrow, as forever unbetraying, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind has completely disappeared, has at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddhas. If the appearance of dependent relation, which is unbetraying, is accepted separately from emptiness, and as long as they are seen as separate, then one has still not realized the Buddha's intent. If these two realizations are happening simultaneously, without alternation, and from merely seeing dependent relation as completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way in which all objects are apprehended as truly existent. At that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. Furthermore, appearance eliminates the extreme of existence, and emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by wrong notions holding extreme views. In this way, you realize exactly the vital points of the three principal aspects of the path. Resort to seeking solitude, generate the power of effort, and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. This completes Rumi. Often it's read 3 times, but I'm not going to read it 3 times. We'll save that for another time, but it's Rumi. He says my child because this is written to one of his dear students, 500 years ago was when Jitsu Kapa lived. But he didn't die. He's still alive. Yes, dear.
I think I'll just ask, because others may want to know if they can get that copy. That's why you said go on the internet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this is from a letter, from a personal letter that was given to one of his longtime students. That this was, who had been asking and asking for general guidance so that he could continue meditating, someone who lived at quite a distance. And this was his response, and luckily it was preserved, and has become a very important teaching document in the Gelug tradition, and a source of much commentary. And you would never guess that it was a letter, a personal letter, until you get to the end where it says, my child, like that. So, we have a bit of time here. I'm going to repeat the second verse, which is, those who are not attached to the pleasure of circling samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. So, not everyone is ready to become enlightened. That eventually all living beings will become enlightened, but for many, not yet. That they are experiencing the results of their karma. They're experiencing the writhings and difficulties of actions which they have performed in the past, are, you know, like sometimes like in mental hospitals that people will think that there are flies or birds attacking them, swooping down and batting them away, and things that we would consider to be definite signs of an unstable mind. That for those who are in the throes of difficulty, which is basically everyone, many are distracted so badly by their own suffering or their own pleasure that they are incapable of understanding that this is not your true home. This is not their true home. There are many people who in fact are doing too well. They're too comfortable, and they have an easy life. Now, I know this is probably not too many, but their children don't never misbehave. Their cars never break down. Plumbing never freezes in the winter. But there are people out there who have late lives of, you know, jetting off to ski in the Alps, and no one ever gets hurt. Yeah. And so these people are just as distracted by samsara due to the spending of their merit that has been used in a nice, easy life. That nothing ever goes wrong. The very heroes that we wish to emulate, people who are successful and happy, will never seem to have any problems, and we think, oh, wouldn't it be great to be like them? Equally as caught as those who are suffering in wars and abject difficulties, etc. Those both are caught in samsara. And so those who are experiencing too much comfort, those who are experiencing too much pain, are generally, not always, but generally not suitable for discovering their own nature and discovering that this is not their true home. So we want to be nice, what they call middle class, spiritual people. Not too much one way or the other, like that. We just comfort here. Enough suffering to know that it's not a good thing. And just enough comfort to be able to be free enough to do what you want. This is what we want. And so those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling, and who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, you know, many, including myself, I'm so sorry, are so proud of our endowments. That we may have, you know, high education, we may be intelligent, we may be able to play the piano, or maybe we can, maybe we have a lovely singing voice, etc. That much of what we have been given in this life as special attributes, I'm going to say. These are the tools which we have been given in order to make the necessity changes in this very lifetime. These are your temporary endowments, and are to be used not to be used in an arrogant and proprietary manner. That very often, for example, some people who are painters or musicians or singers, instead of being arrogant about their gift or their endowment of this talent, they say, "This does not belong to me. This is a gift from God," and that's very true. And that's very good. I'm Buddhism, but I say that too. It's a gift from God. These are the specialized tools that we need. And in that way, that how you are abusing or using carefully or abusing your endowments is how careful a caretaker you are of your human life. That sometimes people in the creative arts become overstimulated by their own talent, don't know how to care for their endowments carefully, and turn to alcohol or drugs or overstimulation of the senses in order to continue being creative, particularly alcohol. In order to get out of the way of their talent, they don't know they're doing that. They feel it's them. And so they fail miserably as a caretaker of their own endowments. And so we have certain freedoms. I'm sure not as much freedom as you want to have, but you do have a certain freedom. Isn't that so? You're not imprisoned. That maybe you can't go anywhere and do anything you want, but you can certainly go somewhere and do something. And so whatever amount of freedom that you have, you want to use in a meaningful way. Many people have the freedom of choice and freedom to do things, but refuse to do it. That they're perfectly capable of doing more than they're doing. These are people who are not suitable candidates for transformation unless something really dramatic changes. Sometimes it happens. So now we've limited who Je Tsongkhapa is talking to. If you've got this, lack of attachment to the pleasures of this life, not very many don't. If you have, if you're really working hard to make life meaningful with the freedom and skills that you have, really achieving, in other words, he's saying, achieving your potential. Here's someone who's talking about emptiness and the illusory nature of reality, the illusory nature of the world. Now he's saying you have a responsibility to achieve your potential. It's there for a reason. Not very many there. So now we go to a smaller group. It's like a pyramid going up like that. Those who entrust themselves to the path, pleasing the victorious ones. That those who are following the path, it may not even be called Buddhism. The path does not require to be called Buddhism in order to be the path of Dharma. However, in my opinion, in our present day, the closest match to the actual path is Tibetan Buddhism. And that's my opinion. However, that is my cultivated opinion. And in that way, Je Tsongkhapa says, who entrust themselves to the path, pleasing the victorious ones. Meaning that you are actually heading somewhere in the direction toward perfection, and you are already in the telescope. What is that? The kind of a sight line, like a surveyor uses.
Oh.
There's your eye, and there's the eye of Buddha, like that. So this, and you know it, and the Buddha knows it, and they happy you coming, they happy you changing, and you are delightfully being drawn into that relationship toward the awakened state. You know, Buddha means awakened. And so the exemplification of that is the Buddha, who is actually Buddhas are real living beings like that. They're beings who are awakened. But the state of Buddha means awakened, which makes it even more silly when we talk about people who say that they're Buddha, when you look at them and they're not no way awakened, and yet they say they're awakened. Well, what is it? Are you a Buddha, or are you like an honorific Buddha? Did you put this in like a box top and you send it away or you flash it around the wall? You know, sometimes people call their friends Buddhas, you know, so then they feel like I'm a Buddha, you're a Buddha, we're all Buddhas together like that. It's sort of like, You can see by my outfit that I am a cowboy. See by your outfit that you're a cowboy too. You can see by our outfits that we are both cowboys. If you get an outfit, you can be a cowboy. And so like this. Like this. And now, it's an even smaller number. Isn't that so? You, fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. Even among this small percentage of living beings, who are human beings, who can hear these words, who have already achieved levels, that's who he's talking to. That's who he's